Hello, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Rail Rangers on the Road. Every month, the Midwest Rail Rangers take you to an interesting and unique railroad destination across the Midwest, including places in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, and Wisconsin. The Midwest Rail Rangers, a 501c3 nonprofit, was founded in 2015 to provide onboard educational programs across the Midwest. Perhaps you have caught us on select weekends on the South Shore Line between Chicago and South Bend, Indiana, on private rail excursions featuring dome cars and other heritage rail equipment, Amtrak charters and motor coach trips organized by the 20th Century Railroad Club of Chicago, open house events at the Wisconsin Great Northern Railroad featuring the Sky Parlor car and the Mark Twain Zephyr, and at various outreach events such as Train Fest in Milwaukee and Mad City Rail in Madison, Wisconsin. And now mark your calendar for the first Sunday night of every month at 7 p.m. Central Time for Rail Rangers on the Road. Without further ado, here is this month's program. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Midwest Rail Rangers virtual education program. A brand new episode. Here it is, Sunday, October the 2nd, 2022. Look at all the beautiful fall foliage. And do you know what today is? It's not any normal program. It's a very special Sunday night program here with the Midwest Rail Rangers. And do you, Candace Taborn, educational coordinator of the Midwest Rail Rangers, have any idea why this program is so special tonight?
No, but I bet you're going to tell us.
Oh, well, where are we coming from?
We are coming from the Soudan mine.
Sudan? We're in Africa?
No.
You said we're in the Sudan. That's in Africa, isn't
No,
it?
spelled differently.
Oh. Well, this is so special, Candace, because this, as you know, is our 50th episode of our virtual programs.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we've done 50 programs now, 50 new episodes since our very first program back on June 24th, 2020, just a few months into the pandemic when we started doing these Rail Ranger on the Road programs. So this is our 50th episode. Now, next month, we're going to be doing a special look back, and we'll tell you more about that at the end, but we'll be doing a special look back at all 50 programs on November 6th, 2022, our next program next month. But so for this program, I'm going to flip the camera around and let Candace be your tour guide for a little bit, and she'll show you and tell you where we're at. We've been saving this one for a while because they were closed for quite a while with the coronavirus. We wanted to do this program back in 2020 and 2021 where we weren't able to, so we saved it for our 50th program.
There you go.
So let's flip the camera around. I'll let you play tour guide.
All right, sounds good. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for flipping the camera on me. We're here at the Soudan mine in Soudan, Minnesota.
Ah.
This is the oldest and deepest iron ore mine in Minnesota. It was operated by U.S. Steel until 1962, and then it was turned over to the State Park Services, and now they operate it and give underground tours. So check out their website.
Why are the Rail Rangers at a mine? Are we going to be going on some tracks down below the ground?
We are. They give underground tours.
And we're going to go on one tonight?
We are.
Oh, all right. Well, let's take a look at some of the above ground stuff, I guess, before our tour. So, not only is it State Park, it looks like it's a National Historic Landmark registered with the Park Service. So not a Park Service unit, but
nice displays here that tell us about the park, and know before you go, and make sure that you...
Is this what we're going on? What does it say?
This is grab a hard hat, load the cages, and get ready for a half-mile descent.
So we're going on that train?
Potentially that one.
Oh, okay.
The 27th level of the Soudan mine.
Oh, that sounds
Once
deep.
underground, you'll load into a train
car
that takes you 0.7 miles into the area last worked by miners. Learn how mining process worked and the job of the miners and how hard it was.
All right, let's see what some of this stuff is. What's this big wheel, Candace? What is this used for?
That,
I think that's the sheave wheel. Can you tell us more about that?
yeah, the sheave wheels are large, so the hoist rope, which is over there,
Yeah.
the hoist rope,
Yes. Hoist rope.
it turns and brings everything back up to the top.
Ah, including us, I guess, huh?
Potentially.
All right.
So there
We have the Dean Steam pump over here. Cullen Steam made this pump run before 1924. When electric pumps were installed, it was the only way to get water out of the mine. Water is continuously pouring into the mine from underground streams and pumps day and night. What is this thingy over here?
That's the receiving tank.
Oh.
It stored nothing but air, kind of like your head.
Ah-ha-ha.
It compressed inside the engine house air to store there where the pipes underground were powered, drilled, and other mining machinery.
Oh. So what's over? Let's take a peek over here real quick. Can we see, there's like a plaque or something, and then we can see if we can, I don't know if we can see over the edge into the mine. It looks, they have like a fence up there, so I don't know if that's going to be able to like look down in it, or if that's just a canyon or something. What do you think?
Maybe.
Never been here before?
Never.
I haven't either. Mentioned we're about just over an hour north of Duluth and about 96 miles from the Canadian border at International Falls. So we have a historical marker here. Minnesota's iron mining industry was born here in 1884, and the opening of the mine was one of the great commercial events of the 19th century. The first ore was shipped from Breintung pit of the Soudan mine on July 31st, 1884, beginning the development of the rich iron ore deposits of the oldest of Minnesota's three ranges, the Vermilion. Of course, then there's the Mesabi, right? And then the Iron Range as well. The Soudan was the first mine from even open pits, but soon became an underground operation. The mine, which operated from 1884 until 1962, is the deepest as well as the oldest in Minnesota, as Candace mentioned at the beginning of the program. A shaft extends to a depth of 2,500 feet. Wow, because the Cherry mine was not even close to being that deep, which was the mine near Princeton and Mendota, Illinois, the Cherry Hill mine, which we used to talk about on our programs on the Southwest Chief. So, so I'm not sure if this is the mine itself down here, or this was maybe the pits that they, it might have been the pits that they dug beforehand, but definitely some pretty scenery here.
Very pretty.
So then we have a lot of
machinery out here.
Yeah, and then there's the visitor center, which we can go in here and show people the visitor center. Was this kind of your idea? You found this, or did I find this? I'm not sure.
I think we both did.
Oh, okay. One of those places you always want to get to, but, you know, being 90 miles south of the Canadian border, not always quite convenient to get to, unless you're in the area.
Here's the map of the grounds.
So you can go on a walking tour. Some of this, the dry house, the engine house, herd frame, mine rescue station, drill shop, and crusher house. So definitely a lot to see up here.
I think so.
So this was the dry house, which serves as the visitor center.
Where the miners changed into their clothes and dried them so they could be ready for the next day's shift.
Are we really going to have to put on the hard hats and the whole gear tonight?
I think so, yes.
Really? That's kind of hokey.
All right, well, let's go inside.
All right.
So we have a double deck cage. We're actually all going to fit into one cage because we're a nice small group, which is awesome. But the ride that these guys would have taken actually is just like this one. This one right here with the big wheels on the bottom of it, excuse me, is sitting on its side. standing up with a cable on top of it. We're essentially heading underground on a rail system. And that portion to the left is where you're going to put the miners. They would have put 14 to 16 full-grown men into a metal box that size. Again, I told you, nice roomy ride for us today, right? Keep that in mind when we get in there. Now this bottom portion is called a skip. And the skip would hang down below that cage, and that is how they got iron up to the surface. That skip can haul about 6 tons of ore. Okay? Now here in Sudan, we actually started open pit mining just like they do today down on the Masabi. The difference is our ore sits in the ground differently. You can see one of our original open pits right across the parking lot here. Do you see how narrow it is? Okay, down in the Masabi, they are taking vast slices of land. Okay, they've got those 3-story ore trucks where they can haul a lot of iron at once. We are limited in our open pits because our iron sits in the ground in columns, and there are 7 of them on our property. So although we started in open pits, we actually went underground fairly quickly. And believe it or not, things got safer when we went underground, okay, because things got more stable. Now Pete, it looks like, is ready. Are you ready for us? Ready. All right, so we're going to go ahead and load up and head underground and continue the story there.
You keep getting other people down. You just cut somebody off.
I mean, you can watch the back and turn and face towards the front for me.
That's nice and cool.
Literally.
I like it.
Literally and figuratively cool.
Turn and face that way.
Yes.
Follow directions.
Right, I'm gonna stand. Do you want to actually come stand up in the middle here? There we go. So I just told the guy who's driving we are ready to go to 27. He responded with the same number of buzzes. Now it's going to be about a 2.5-minute ride to get to where we're going, and our top speed will be 10 miles an hour. Here we go. level 27. All right, stay put for me while I get the gate open, okay? Guess what I forgot, Pete?
Your key?
Yep.
You want mine?
Oh no, I'll use the key of shame.
Everybody take pictures.
There we go. All right, come on out. I'm going to have you take a left. We'll get some lights for you shortly. Take a look
Step
in
on.
that direction for me, okay? Kind of hang out on the dirt over there. Watch your step on the way out.
I'll get your picture. Let's get you. It's probably the lowest you've ever been below sea level.
Correct.
So that's lower than Death Valley.
All right, if you want to head over onto the dirt area, once you all get your pictures. And I gotta prove you were here, right? Yes. All right.
This looks nicer than Amtrak.
All right. So we are going to go ahead and get into these train cars, and I'm going to have you load into these front 3 cars, if you would. We are heading down the dark tunnel, so if you want to face forward, keep that in mind when you choose the bench you'd like to sit in.
Why don't we go over here? Yeah. I don't want to sit. No. I'll be going forward.
All right, so we're going to challenge
I'll be going
this a
backwards.
little bit here before we go on a train ride. What did you all think of the ride down here? Scary? Would you do it again? No. Do you want the good news or the bad news? You got to do it at least one more time today, okay? But it's worth it, I promise. Then you get to say you did it, which is pretty fantastic. So folks, you are now 2,341 feet below ground, all right? The sign over there says 689 feet below sea level. We did a little bit of math. After all, I am a math teacher. We had to double check the numbers, right? We're actually closer to about 740 feet below sea level. So that puts us lower than the lowest portion of Lake Superior down here, right? Lower than the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Which is very interesting to think about. Very, very far below ground. That's what that means, okay? Yep. So now, folks, we also traveled at a 78-degree angle to get down here because we were following the way the iron sits in the ground, which means we went about 500 feet to the north, which if we were able to look straight up from here, we would be past the tree line on that open pit that I pointed out to you up on the surface. Now, interestingly enough, we have not quite made it to where they were mining the iron yet. That is another 3/4 of a mile to the west and another half mile or so to the east. The reality is we centralized 2 shaft number 8 right here in 1924. Electricity came to our property. It was much easier to maintain 1 shaft instead of the 16 that were originally operated on our property. Now those 16 other shafts and the open pits I pointed out to you actually play a really important role in one of the safety features of our mine, and that is the air quality. So take a nice deep breath for me. What do you think? Not terrible for half mile underground, right? Yeah, it's not bad. So that we have those 16 old open shafts. We've got 7 old open pits, and between all of our levels, we have 54 miles of these horizontal tunnels that we call drifts. Now, there are old adits that open up into the bottom of our open pits on the surface, so drifts just like this. And they allow cool air in. I'll take your question in 1 second, okay? Just let me finish talking about the air. I love questions, they're awesome. So those old adits allow fresh air into the system that has cooled. All right, science lesson number 1. Looking at you two here, right? Okay, what does cold air do? It sinks, it's heavy, okay? So cold air sinks and it starts to weave its way through this essentially underground anthill of tunnels, okay? And it starts to warm up. In fact, this level is warmer than the one up above it because we are heated using the core of the earth here. We are completely disconnected from what's on the surface. Now that air, by the time it gets down here, is warm enough and it's got cold air behind it, pushing it through that it wants to rise. And that's what shaft number 8 does. Shaft number 8 acts as our chimney. So the air you felt getting into the cage on the surface was actually warm air exiting the mine. Now that full cycle takes just over 30 minutes. So the air you're breathing right now will have been completely replenished by the time we get back from our journey. So good air to breathe, that's good news when you're underground, right? Now what was your question, my dear?
Are there bats down here?
You know, there are. Okay, not many of them make it this far underground though, because this is really far away from the food that they eat. They live much closer to the surface so that they can get out into the woods and eat mosquitoes. Okay? Okay, that's a great question. Now, we've actually lost about 98% of our bat population to the white-nosed fungus. So we used to see quite a few more down here. You know, that's the bad news. The good news is that our most recent bat count has actually started to stabilize a little bit. So we're hoping we're through the worst of it and the bats will start to come back. Bats are a good sign, absolutely. Other questions for me before I continue? Okay.
How many miners were employed just before
Just before we shut down, we had about 600, give or take a few. Yep, and those were split between 3 8-hour shifts. And so that was actually the least number of miners we would have had working here. In our very early years, you're talking about 1,000 guys per shift. Those were 12-hour shifts at that time. So production was a little bit more significant in our earlier years. But as technology changed and you needed fewer and fewer guys to do the work, that number decreased. Now I told you about the excellent air quality, right? Did you catch the nickname of this place in the movie?
Cadillac.
The Cadillac. There were guys lined up to work here because of all of our safety features, because of how safe this underground location is. That air quality is one of the things that makes us the Cadillac. The second thing that makes us the Cadillac is actually this rock that is all around you. You are within a 2.7 billion year old Ely greenstone formation. We're not in the iron yet. Now this stuff was around before organic matter existed on planet Earth. All right, so there's no fossils in any of this rock. Okay, it's very, very old stuff, and it's very strong stuff. Now you may notice see this fencing around you? That is not completely historically accurate. That was put up when they blasted and excavated out our 2 physics labs that are behind this wall here. They are the length of football fields, and they have 3-story ceilings. So it took quite some time for them to create those 2 physics labs over there, and so they put this fence up because they were worried about rocks falling and damaging our train, right? And we wanted to keep giving tours. Now, in several years of blasting, there was just over about a dozen rocks that fell, and this is one of the biggest ones right here. Do you believe me now when I say this stuff is strong? Yeah, it's not bad, right? You're not going to see timbers down here to support anything. We don't need them. The rock supports itself. It's good stuff. All right. Now, there is another thing that makes us the Cadillac, and in the underground mining world, I would say it's probably one of the top things you have to pay attention to, and that is how much water you're dealing with. Now look around. Do you see any water? So you guys probably see some puddles if you're in the front train car here, right? We have water. You know, we're well under the water table, okay? And in an average year, we pump out about 30 to 35 million gallons of water from our mine. But you have to keep in mind that's spread out amongst 54 miles of drifts, right? So it seems like a lot of water, but it's really not too bad. We're considered a dry mine. Now, between the Mesabi and the rest of the Vermilion Iron Range up here, there were almost 200 underground mines in operation. And many of those mines, particularly the one up in Ely called the Pioneer. Anyone been up to Ely before? They have a similar head frame. Have you? Yeah, they have a similar head frame from the old Pioneer mine. The difference is it's now a lake. Okay, Miners Lake, it's a fitting name for it, right? Now up at the Pioneer, when they were in operation, they were pumping 30 to 35 million gallons every couple of weeks. So that is a wet mine. The guys that work in some of those wet mines would stand in mud up to their knees. They'd be rained on while they were working. You can imagine how much fun it would be to be around humans when they're wet and cold, trying to get a job done. It was tough, right? Not here. We're a dry mine, we have good air, we have stable rock. So the underground location here sounds pretty good so far, right? Folks, the mine is very safe. The mining of this stuff is a totally different story. And that's where we need to go on a journey so I can show you the rest of the story here. You have to keep in mind, if you were a Soudan miner, do you think you ever got to ride in a train to get to where you were working? We brought this in for our paying customers, all right? You don't have to go on a 3/4 mile walk to get the rest of the way to work now, okay? You get to ride a train, but that means there are some rules and regulations on this train to keep you all safe. There's wires above you, there's pipes to the side over there. They'll come in a little bit closer, and because of that, I need you to follow 3 rules. Okay, rule number 1, stay seated at all times while the train's in motion. Rule number 2, keep everything within the confines of these cars. All right, you're going to see displays. You might even see some of my mannequin friends on the way down to where we are going. You're going to want to point them out to the person next to you. Please, by all means, please point them out, but do not stick your fingers outside of the train car to point at them. All right. Finally, you're welcome to take as many pictures as you'd like on this tour, but all of it has to stay below the level of your hard hat. Nothing can go up here. Okay? We like to say this isn't Disneyland. Right? This was a mine, and anything that gets caught down here will probably stay put. All right? Are we ready for a train ride? That happens several times a tour. Here we go, folks. We're gonna go on a train ride.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Got your hard hat on so it doesn't fall off?
Here we go.
They're still there, huh?
Still here.
Uh-oh. Park. That's a good thing.
All right. Welcome to the location where active mining was taking place in Sudan. Now, we haven't quite got to the place where they were taking the iron out yet. That is actually 30 feet or so above your heads. Okay? And we need to get up there, so you have two options. Lucky for you, I'm not going to make you take a ladder. Right? That's how the miners would have gotten above. The options I have for you today are a spiral staircase or a modern stainless steel elevator. Okay, you can choose whichever one works for you. If you prefer the elevator, stay seated where you are, and Pete, who's with us today, will show you where that is. If you are okay with 3 stories on a spiral staircase, get out of the train cars where the doors are open, and I will meet you in the crosscut over here.
Do the elevator. Yeah.
So come on down over here if you're good with stairs.
Elevator. Yeah.
As you step out, realize you're not on sidewalk, so watch your footing, please.
Live from a mine. Thank you.
No, that's too tight.
So tight.
And crush my head.
If you step out, go to your left. At the end of that hallway, you'll turn to the right, and you'll hear voices long before you see the team.
Okay. So watch your step. Oh, there's a spiral staircase that Candace didn't want to do. Chicken. I like just the train ride. Careful around those loose rocks.
All right. Keep going with this. We're right over here, folks. So all of us have to stay with me on it, because we're a National Historic Landmark. You know what that means? That means that we are protected, and we want to keep this place the same way it is for everybody else, so we have to leave the rocks where they are, okay? Thank you. Now, before I continue, do you all have any questions for me? Okay, we'll keep going. All right, so you may be wondering, why on earth we went half a mile underground, traveled 3/4 of a mile horizontally, and then came up 30 feet before we could start mining, okay? And that is because our specular hematite here is very special, and we need to use a unique method of mining to get it out of here. Let's talk about the iron first. We're not actually going to mine, no. I didn't bring a drill or dynamite with me.
Darn child labor laws.
That too. You have to be at least 16
Oh.
to work underground here. Yes, yes. This is that part where I say stay in school. Okay. All right. So all of the iron in this space, folks, actually would have filled all of the open space that you see. Now that drift that we came down where the train tracks were, represents about 3 years of work just to get to this location. And all of this open space represents another 5 years or so worth of work to drill and blast and get everything out of here. So this was not a quick process. And that's because our iron is unique. So they were going to still put the time and money into mining this stuff because of how special it was. Now here underground we are actually mining up, which means all of the iron in this room that's left behind, there's lots here, is above you. Now any guesses what color it is? Yeah.
Gray.
It is gray. Well done. Did you study for this tour?
No, I play Minecraft.
Oh, yes. That actually has come up more than once this summer. Yeah. Very cool. I might have to use that in my classroom. So here it is. Here's this beautiful exposed piece of our Soudan specular hematite. Now, specular is a fancy science word for sparkly. Do you see how it sparkles?
No.
You don't see the sparkles. Here, I got a piece down here. Check out this one. You see it sparkle right there?
Oh, now I do.
Yeah. So there's quartz in our hematite. And that quartz is what makes it sparkle like that. Now, the hematite part means bleeding stone. And if you look around this exposed piece, do you see all that red, rusty color up there?
Yeah.
So that is actually dust that has settled on the surfaces in this room. And because it has such a high iron content, it started to oxidize, which means it started to rust. So that red, rusty color that people are familiar with, it's dust. Okay? A nice, clean slice of specular hematite would be that beautiful gunmetal gray color. And if you can imagine the entire ceiling being that color, that's actually how these ore bodies got their name. Okay, you are in the Montana Extension ore column. The story goes that this got its name, the Montana ore body, because there was a gentleman who had been to Montana and said that the back or the ceiling of the mine reminded him of the Montana night sky and how sparkly it was. Pretty cool. Now, our ore, as I told you, is very special. It's about 68% iron and it's about 30% oxygen. Now, the stuff they're mining down on the Mesabi, they're mining something called taconite today. Have you heard that word before? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that stuff comes out of the ground at 20 to 25% iron. But they can process it and turn it into those little teeny tiny pellets that are about 67% iron. Ours comes out of the ground that way, naturally occurring. This is good stuff. This is quality, high-grade iron ore. And the oxygen is a very good thing to have attached to that iron. Because in steel making, you introduce impurities when you put iron, raw iron, into the furnace. And oxygen actually helps you remove impurities. So Soudan ore could be used in those furnaces without introducing an excess of impurities that would result in lower quality steel. And let me tell you, when we were an operating mine, cities weren't just moving out anymore, they were starting to go up. So you needed a high quality steel product that didn't have a lot of carbon in it. Our oxygen helped them remove carbon and create a more, relatively speaking, flexible steel product. That's good, right? That's very good, okay? Skyscrapers can go pretty tall up into the sky because of all of that engineering that goes into that steel that makes them. Now, that means that our iron essentially became an additive in the steel making process. They needed that oxygen. Now, I told you there's a lot left here, right? This is a young stope. This room is called a stope. It means step up. Makes sense. We came up to get in here, right? There's another probably 170 feet or so of mineable ore above your head in this room. They were actually planning and mapping out level 29, which would have been 200 feet below the level of our train tracks when we shut down. They never made it there. So there's a lot of iron left here, and the million-dollar question at this point is, if there's so much left, why are we a state park? And why are we not a functioning iron mine, right? Yeah, you think you know?
Because we want to show people it.
You know, that's part of it. We do want to show people this, but I'll tell you what, if this stuff was still going to be profitable, you better believe they'd be down here mining it, and they wouldn't be showing it to the public, okay?
So this wouldn't be a park?
It wouldn't be if they could still mine this stuff, but I'll tell you what, steel making changed. The furnaces changed. All of a sudden, the furnaces were able to inject as much oxygen as they needed in the steel making process. And the Soudan mine that has this high grade iron that's pretty expensive could no longer charge what they needed to get this stuff out of the ground to be profitable. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is actually taconite. So originally, I'll show you taconite. So originally down in the Mesabi Iron Range, they were underground mining past the taconite. What they did is they discovered that that stuff is magnetic. So they used magnets to turn it into taconite pellets. I have a couple in my pocket if I can find them. Here's one at least. Okay, so this comes out of the ground. They heat it up, they run it past magnets, and they can turn it into these little pellets that have the same iron content as the stuff we have naturally occurring in the ground here. And actually, when I moved up to the Iron Range and I started going to work in the morning, I noticed quite a significant increase in the number of train crossings in my life. And it was actually really cool the first time I saw a taconite train heading down to Duluth, because the taconite comes out of those taconite plants and it is steaming. It's really cool to see. Okay? Yeah.
What cities around here do the taconite, like where is the mining? I'm not as familiar with the area.
So did you, what highways did you take to get up?
I came along the North Shore and then took one over.
Okay, so you came
and
down through Ely.
Yes.
Okay, sure. So, of course, Duluth and Two Harbors are where things get shipped out east.
Yeah.
Right from the Iron Range. Virginia, Grand Rapids, Hibbing, those are your big cities.
Where the taconite is?
Yes, where they're, so the Mesabi Iron Range goes all the way to Babbitt.
Okay.
And it goes all the way west to about Grand Rapids.
Okay.
So it's a very large iron range, and there are multiple taconite plants on the Mesabi.
And the taconite's going to Northwest Indiana?
Some of it.
Yeah.
It kind of goes to quite a few different places,
Okay.
depending on who needs the taconite at that point in time. But it does go out east to be made into steel.
Okay.
They don't have the steel plants here.
Yeah.
It's still cheaper to ship it out there and have it made into steel. Yep. Good question. And it's quite a complicated process. You should, if you're interested in that side of things,
Yeah.
I encourage you to do some research online.
Okay.
There's a lot of really cool stuff on there that you can find out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Okay.
Oh, ready to head back?
Headed back.
Head back. Well, now we're above ground
We're back above ground.
to wrap things up. So what'd you think?
It was pretty awesome. Hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope you enjoyed Chelsea's narration and interpretation of the mine and the men that mined this mine.
Mind the mine.
Mind the mine.
So what was your favorite part?
Probably learning about how they had to go down to come back up because the iron ore was always above your head.
Yeah.
So.
You want to show everybody the view before we leave?
So we'll take you out and show you the view of where the mine would go on.
And for people who think Minnesota's flat, shame on you. Everybody says every state is flat. Not so much, folks. Not up in northern Minnesota. The southern Minnesota's kind of rolling hills to flat, but yeah, take a look at that view.
And they got the stockpile trestle, so that's where they would go down into the rail car and down the hill.
And then eventually down to Lake Superior and over to Northwest Indiana, where the South Shore is. Chelsea told us some of the iron ore went to.
But a lot goes out to the East Coast, she said.
Yeah. Pittsburgh, steel. Philadelphia, where they made the where they made the Mark Twain Zephyr. Maybe some of that steel came from here. Where it could have came from Pennsylvania, though. So this is where they would have dumped the...
Down into the iron ore cars.
Wow. Very cool. Well, anyway, we better wrap up.
That's right. It's
So,
a long drive back.
Not too bad. About 3.5 hours. That's
not
not horrible. For you folks from Chicago, yeah, you're looking at 9 or 10 hours. But anyway, that's our program. We'll be back on November the 6th. Sunday night, 7 o'clock. We'll be doing a best of special, the best of the last 50 episodes. And then our first program, next completely new program, of course, will be December 2022 for our third anniversary Christmas special.
Woohoo!
So, yeah.
Stay tuned.
All right. Hope you enjoyed this program from just 90 miles from the Canadian border in Minnesota. Take care. Soudan Mines. Come and visit, folks.
On behalf of the Midwest Rail Rangers, thank you so much for joining us for this program. Here's a look at the next program. Make sure you mark your calendar for this, and we look forward to seeing you then. In the meanwhile, if you're planning an Amtrak trip, don't forget about one of our exciting and interesting rail route guides. For more information, go to www.railrangers.org. That's www.railrangers.org, and click on the Rail Rangers store. There are plenty of options for both local and long-distance rail route guides, in traditional book format, PDF ebook, and even MP3 podcasts. Until we gather together next month, the first Sunday of every month at 7 p.m. Central Time, we hope you have a great week and a great month ahead, and come out and join us on one of our onboard educational programs. For a listing of our in-person programs, go to our website. Again, that's www.railrangers.org, and click on upcoming events. Until next month, we'll see you then.